Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? And the Nemo Sea is red and white. Nemo Sea is red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. When the drums are marching straight to bed. Come on, come on.
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on Millions and as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Before we get into anything else, we're recording this on the 2nd, putting it on the 3rd, so that means you have the 3rd and the 4th to vote for us in Connect Savannah's Best of Savannah. Vote for us for Best Podcast. Please and thank you. But tonight we're in the second part of the Autopsy of the 2025 series. Before we get into anything else, how have you been? What are you drinking?
I'm good, man. I found a couple beers that were in the way back of my fridge, so I had a couple of those before we got on. But right now I have water. But again, just super busy. Our first baseball game for the middle school team I coach is on Wednesday, and then we go from March 4th, and I think the last game, if we don't make the playoffs, is April 22nd. So we still got another 2 months, and I've been going
Oh,
since
there you go.
January. So that's cool. But I think we're going to be pretty good. I would be a massive disappointment if we're not a playoff team. So
It
that's a big.
would, because you did bet double or nothing on your miles from losing the season uh,
Mhm.
game picks. So
Yeah, we're not. We're probably. You know what? I mean, I'm not never going to say never, but I don't think we're going to be a 1 or 2 seed, but a 3 or 4 seed's definitely on the table.
yeah, I
We'll
mean,
figure that out pretty early.
playoffs is playoffs. You know,
Just got to get in. I mean, the softball team I coached a few years ago, we went winless, but we made the playoffs still because but nobody wanted to play us. And to our credit, we uh we were beating the 1 seed for about 3 innings, and then the wheels fell off. But
and the one seed
never
one
forget those.
seeded.
Yeah, yeah, they were like Virginia, we were whoever they lost to in the tournament a few years ago. Uh, but no, I mean besides that, rocking a goatee for the first time in like maybe 15 years, and
I thought it was
I
different. I wasn't gonna ask,
it
but I did think it was different.
I don't know why I decided to do it, but I will say, uh, kids notice little things. So like at school, I had someone told me I look like Stone Cold Steve Austin, which sweet,
Yeah, I
that
can see it.
works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I got Walter White, which again I can see.
Yeah, that's when you're just like, all right, if that's what you think,
Yeah.
you're responsible for calling me Heisenberg from now
Science, bitch.
on.
And then somebody said I look like Ice Cube, so I see that too. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm colorblind. Everything's gray. Perfect.
Right, but no, it's all good. I ordered my cap and gown for graduation in like 2 months, so
Oh, you're walking. You're
I
going up
I
to
I was
Statesboro.
it's in Statesboro. I thought that they were gonna have an option at in Savannah, but that's only for undergrad. So yes, I'm going out there, and it's a Monday night, which that kind of sucks. But
That does kind of suck. When is it?
May 11th.
Oh, so it's not like you got to go to work the next day.
And the day of too. I'm like, I'm gonna leave a tad bit early and then go out, drive the hour or so out to Statesboro and do all that fun stuff.
See,
But
I
yeah,
what I was gonna say, if you didn't have work the next day, I was gonna have my friends from Statesboro, like I was gonna go up there with you, and have my friends from Statesboro take you out for a Statesboro night since you never got one while you were going to Southern.
Yeah. Oh,
oh,
that disconnect.
Oh, yeah, you disconnected.
uh,
I think you're good now.
okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, cool. All right, sorry. Yeah, no, the closest I have to a Statesboro night is just going to Nass Landing twice, but that's about it.
Um,
Yeah. How about you? How's it going?
Good man. So every year for my birthday slash Christmas, because they're so close together, my dad gets me a bottle of whiskey and a pocket knife. It's
Sweet.
always a different knife. It's always a different bottle of whiskey, but it's very useful things, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this year I got a short barrel, small batch toasted whiskey.
Okay.
Um, and it's 94 proof. It's a little lower than what I normally drink. And I haven't even had a sip of it yet because I poured it just before we got on here. But I'm very interested because all but one toasted barrel that I've had, I loved. And the only
Hmm.
toasted barrel that I didn't love, I don't like anything else they make. So I don't know why I thought I would like that.
Yeah,
Just,
that's fair.
but this was also our Fort Pulaski disc golf tournament we do every year, which means this year I walked an average of 7 miles a day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then Sunday I left Fort Pulaski and went and hosted trivia. Um, so your boy's tired. If I yawn into the microphone, please forgive me. But I did almost fall
Were
asleep while driving my work truck today.
Oh damn. Were you okay, so how did you perform in the tournament?
I didn't play this year.
Oh, okay, you
So
just organized and whatnot.
yeah. So I was one of the tournament directors this year. So I was in charge of getting everybody teed off at the right time and giving out prizes at the end. And um, we did have two kegs, and
Sweet.
then a friend that produces his own distilled liquor, and he also produces his own mead, and he brought a keg
Okay.
of mead.
Okay.
So I was responsible for making sure that all of those did not go unused.
Nice. You didn't have to like jump in like the moat at Fort Pulaski and like fight any gators or anything like that.
No, we did learn that by where we have a couple of the holes, there have been alligators seen recently. So
Good noted. Okay.
yeah, just tell people like, hey, don't mess with the alligators and don't mess with the eagles. Other than that, you should be fine.
Good.
One's a
Noted.
federal
Noted.
crime, and one we won't find your body. So choice is yours. Make
Yeah,
good
right.
decisions.
Hmm.
All right, but so for the second part of this autopsy series, we are doing special teams and defense. And we're going to start off with special teams because I think they definitely played a part in both good and bad outcomes of games this season.
Hmm.
And I think just because of their, let's say, limited impact on most games, that nobody really thinks, like, when you think back on the 2025 season, do you think about any special teams?
Not 2025, no.
Right. So, I mean, other than the blocked punt in the SEC
Yeah.
championship game, like nobody really thinks about it. So we're gonna get into punter first, and off the top, Brett Thorson was coming off a torn ACL, started the season at 8 months post surgery, and this was a torn ACL on his kicking leg. So I believe that definitely had an effect on his punting this season because
And he didn't play and he didn't play right away either. He missed the first like couple games, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't know if he did. You know what? Now that you're saying it, I think he did. I didn't see that in the numbers that I looked up earlier,
So I feel
but
like he missed the first like maybe two games. I think I could be way off base. I don't know, but I feel like he didn't play the entire season.
um, sitting here looking, and I realized, yeah. So let's see. He did miss two games, first two games of the season, and so surprisingly, the numbers that I'm about to say are actually Brett's are a little bit lower than this one, but his average punt or the team's average punt this season was 45.81 yards. Brett's was 45.52. So not a significant difference, but still a difference. Um,
Okay.
and I will say that is down from almost 47 yards per punt in 2024. The thing about it is we don't know where he punted from on the field for these.
Right.
Just without being able to look into it, right? Like I didn't go game by game, punt by punt to see how many he got within he got within the 20 and within the 10, but it seemed like he
Mhm.
had a little less distance control this year
Yeah,
based
and I
on
mean,
how many touchbacks that he gave up.
and again, that makes sense too, having a torn ACL in your kicking leg and probably missing time as well. So I mean,
But at the same time, how many times does Georgia keep a team from scoring if they start on the 17 versus the 20? Like,
pretty often.
I mean, like if they start on their own 17 or their own 20, what difference does it make on the scoreboard? It probably doesn't,
Oh, right.
right? So, like, I don't necessarily think that had a big difference, and I don't think either punter really had an effect on any really total outcome of the season or total outcome of any game. Because any of the games that Georgia lost this year, I don't think a punt made much of a difference. Georgia still allowed 0 punt returns of 20 or more yards, so it's not like they gave up any big punt returns or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, I will say we do need to move on to the kicker, and I understand that Georgia fans are probably going to be upset with me when I talk about the kicker because for some reason at Georgia, you can talk about Kirby Smart, you can talk about the quarterback, you can talk about the running back, you can talk about the linebackers. Do not say negative words about our kickers. We're the only team in the country that people get visibly angry when you talk trash about the kickers.
Yeah, it's wild.
But
It's funny.
sometimes they deserve it.
Yeah.
Um, and I will say, to be fair to Peyton Woodring, he was 100% on PATs this season, and he only missed 2 field goals throughout the entire season.
Someone said it's good.
Some would say that's good. Situationally, it's tough. Situationally, it was definitely tough. Um, his first missed kick was against Auburn. They didn't lose the game,
Mhm.
but at the time, Georgia was down 10-0, and that
And
was
it
going to be
felt
their
big.
only points before halftime. That felt
Yeah.
huge at the time.
Yeah. Uh,
And the game was unnecessarily close. I do think 23-10 makes everybody feel a little bit better
yeah.
than 20-10, but
Mhm.
big picture didn't really matter a whole lot. The one that
Yeah.
did and was huge was in the Sugar Bowl because we watched Ole Miss's kicker set like 3 Super Bowl or Sugar Bowl record length kicks in
Mhm.
this game. And Peyton Woodring misses a kick that if like before Ole Miss's final drive, Georgia would have been up. I believe it was 6 points. It doesn't.
Mhm.
It's not a full score. It doesn't tie the game, but it does put more pressure on them.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and so I will say after that kick was missed, Peyton Woodring misses that kick, and at the time it's 24-12. It's the very next drive starts Ole Miss's run of 22-3 points.
Yeah.
So momentum in that game, I think momentum is a huge thing in football games. Game to game, maybe not so much. Season to season, definitely not so much. But in the middle of games, it's huge. And it was essentially this was the beginning of the end of the game.
Right.
Um, is the Sugar Bowl loss on Peyton Woodring? No, because the defense uh, sucked in the second half of that game.
Yeah, that's
The
what I mean. Like,
offensive line, I've I've seen stronger wet gas station toilet paper than that offensive line in the second half of the game. I, a lot of things went wrong, but if you're just picking out plays where momentum drastically changed, that's one of
yeah, for
them.
sure.
So it was Peyton Woodring the reason that Georgia season ended poorly. No, but I do think that if Kirby was more confident in Peyton Woodring, that would have changed the complexion of some games because I think confidence in I think more confidence in Peyton instead of going for that fourth down in the Alabama game. Kirby probably kicks the long field goal because it would have been long
Yeah.
given the
Yeah, I was about
momentum.
to say. I was about to ask you about that too. Like, did he miss anything, or was he just not? Was he a reason why they lost that Bama game, the first one?
No, so he missed no kicks in that game, but I do think that Kirby kind of knew here's his maximum distance given the wind, and I'm probably going to take 10 yards off of that given the moment.
Hmm.
And I don't think it was in there. But more confidence in the moment, more confidence in the conditions. He may have gone to the kick instead of going for it on fourth down there, and it could have changed the game. But you can't say that a game in the first month of the season, once again, had an effect on how the season ended. It would have made all of us feel significantly better if Georgia takes Alabama into overtime after not giving up a single point in the second half of that game.
Right. Exactly.
But it didn't matter. Georgia lost, and it still didn't end the season. Um,
Hmm. You still went 12-1 in the well, 12-1 before the playoff.
right. Um, so just want to reiterate for the Georgia fans that are already mad and screaming at their TV. I'm not saying Peyton Woodring is the reason that Georgia didn't win the Sugar Bowl, but I'm saying he was a factor.
Hmm. That's fair.
Um, so we're going to go ahead and get into the defense, and we're doing this a little bit differently than last week because I will say it's more difficult to pull out individual players on the defensive side of the ball than it is on the offensive side of the ball because on the offense, obviously, quarterback runs or throws the ball, the wide receiver catches the ball, and the running back runs the ball. On
Hmm.
defense, if it's kind of like the entire defense, you're trying to break down the offensive line. Because if Elijah Griffin, for example, not calling anybody out, doesn't do his job, and it causes CJ Allen to not be able to do his job, next thing you know, you're asking KJ Bolden to make an open field tackle.
Yeah, it's much more of a unit
Right.
than offense. Yeah, yeah.
But what just like how we do our in-season breakdowns, we're starting with the defensive line, and we're not getting into pass rush yet. That is an entirely different segment that we have a lot of information and opinions on. Just the line. But Georgia's defensive line this year is pretty good. They were very young, had multiple underclassmen playing significant time on the line. I will say they had less depth than previous years. You don't have a Jalen Carter sitting behind a Jordan Davis. That's
Yeah.
not happening really anywhere in college football anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's days gone by. Yeah.
But I will say the two deep was very good this year. But you don't like there's not a boogeyman sitting in the background that's a true freshman anymore. That we're just like, oh man, wait till that guy. Because if there's a boogeyman that's a true freshman, he's playing.
Yeah, or else he's going to transfer to Ole Miss or somewhere like that, Missouri.
Right. Um, I will say the scheme for the defensive line, I think it did regress back to, and regress is probably not the right word here. I struggle to find the exact word I was looking for here, but it seems like it reverted. That's probably the better way to say it. Back to what we saw in 2019 to 2021, um, as far as defensive front play. And I say that because the defensive line was not there this year to make tackles. They were not there to get sacks. They were not there to pressure the quarterback. The defensive line was just there to eat up blocks and allow the linebackers to do their job.
Hmm.
Jordan Davis did that exceptionally well. And it took him a few years in the NFL to get to a point of where he could be that wrecking ball on the front. But
Hmm.
that's what this year's line did. There were not guys uh, that took over games like we had seen in previous years.
Yeah, no, I saw Jalen Carter highlights the other day, and it was like, yeah, that's been missing from this team for the better part of 2 years.
And I do think that was scheme. And this is something
Yep.
I don't know if this is a private conversation on the podcast, but early in the year I thought that it was scheme dependent because of the youth. You didn't want to put these guys
Yeah.
on islands where they were individually responsible for making or breaking plays.
Hmm.
And the year goes on, and you have someone like Elijah Griffin who's now played 11 games, and he's still not being given responsibility in the Georgia Tech game. And I'm now wondering, is it just because of the youth, or is it really a scheme thing? Um,
Hmm.
And to be clear, I'm not saying it's a defensive line coach scheme thing. I think it's an overall defensive scheme thing. But um, here's my big issue with the way that this scheme played out. Did you know that you have to read past 7 defensive back names before you get to the first defensive lineman when you're talking about total tackles on the season?
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's
you
not.
never want to see that. Like,
No, that's not ideal. No.
and it, if you go back to 2019 to 2021, it would be linebacker, linebacker, defensive lineman, edge rusher, linebacker, defensive back. And now it's C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, DB, 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 another linebacker, Gabe Harris, and then you start getting into yeah, it's crazy. It's very disappointing. And I
Yeah.
will say, I do think one of the linchpins of the defense kind of fell out this year with injury, specifically Jordan Hall. I think he was a major piece in what this team wanted to do this year defensively, and he missed 6 games. He missed 6 total games this season. Only was able to play in 8. But if one guy destroys your entire defensive game plan, it probably wasn't a good defensive game plan.
Right.
It's not like on offense where if you're going to your backup quarterback, you have to change a lot of things. Like Georgia recruits defensive line and really defense in general better than any other team in the country. One guy should not drastically change anything you do.
Yeah.
But I don't think that individually the defensive line was responsible for major issues. We already talked about it. I think a lot of that was coaching and total scheme. And I will say the big reason that I'm not upset with the defensive line, this team was 4th in rushing yards allowed per game, 4th in the country. And that's the kind of thing that even though the defensive line wasn't making tackles, if they weren't taking on those blocks for the linebackers to make the tackles, then they're not 4th. That's not how that works. So,
Right.
and
Mm.
I mean, we saw when Georgia was number 1 in the country in rushing defense back in 2019, 2021. So maybe after last year when they couldn't stop the run, they wanted to revert back to that. Um, but still a little disappointing. And the big issue is I think that this scheme of stopping the run first and foremost was not designed for the rest of the defense that was on the field last year.
Yeah.
And this is where we get into the rest of the defense, specifically the pass rushers. Because, boy, if y'all did not know that I was mad about the pass rush situation last year, you're about to. Because did you know that Georgia had 20 total sacks last year? 14 games, 20 total sacks.
That's less than what? That's less than one a game, one sack a game.
It's like 1 point.
Oh, other way around.
Yeah,
Golly.
yeah, it's like
I'm not a
1.2.
math teacher.
Yeah, gym teacher over there.
Gym
Um,
teacher, man.
did you know that 11 of those sacks were from the Mississippi State game and later?
Yeah, we
Oh,
talked. I mean, we talked about that. It seeming like it did get better throughout the year.
right. But it didn't get better throughout the year. It got better after the clock hit November.
Yeah.
Like November 7th was a Mississippi State game. And from November 7th to the first weekend in December and one game after that.
But that was like what, Charlotte, Texas, what, Tech
Georgia
and
Tech,
Bama,
yeah, Georgia Tech,
or not Notre
Bama,
Dame, uh, Ole
Ole
Miss
Miss.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I will say another issue of the sacks is Georgia had 2 guys that were supposed to be premier pass rushers in the entire country. They're supposed to be on the team this year. Second team All SEC player Damon Wilson II decided to sign a contract for an NIL deal, and 2 days later in the transfer portal and go to Missouri.
Yep.
Obviously, a legal dispute there because contracts are legally binding, regardless of how old you are, because you are an adult.
Yep.
And then other players like Samuel Mpemba, 5-star edge rusher from a couple years ago, high school recruit, decide they would rather transfer as presumptive starters than to stay at Georgia. And you're like, huh, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because unlike Missouri and Texas A&M, Georgia did very well this year. So that's confusing, and especially considering they just watched guy at their position, Jalen Walker, get drafted in the first round and have a great rookie year,
Mhm.
or go on to have a great rookie year. And then a few years ago, a guy that he may have played defensive end, but he was still an edge rusher, Trayvon Walker, if you haven't heard of him, he was the number 1 overall draft pick from the
Yeah.
University of Georgia. And then, you have Quay Walker, who played a lot at edge rusher at Georgia, get drafted and go on to play inside linebacker in the NFL.
Hmm.
And you're like, huh. So why would guys that are very good, I'm not going to take anything away from the talent level of these guys, why would they leave after, somebody at their position just, went in the first round? It's kind of confusing.
Hmm.
I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the chase here, guys. I think the outside linebackers coach, Chidera Uzo Deribe, was a pretty massive reason on why those guys are no longer at Georgia, just to be fully transparent. Um, and I think that he is a decent part of why the team was just underwhelming this past year. Because other than guys like Jalen Walker, when's the last time that somebody was not just a freak of nature that didn't allow the coaching staff to hold them back? When was the last time somebody broke out as an edge rusher for Georgia?
Like Leonard Floyd.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
A while ago.
Um,
Yeah.
for sure. And so I think this is one of those situations, and we talked about it last week, I believe, that Kirby, after, and I think because this happened right after signing day, which, while signing day doesn't necessarily matter anymore, it was like somebody could still flip their commitment or sign late or any of that sort of stuff. I don't think there's anything coincidental about shortly after signing day, the outside linebackers coach just no longer coaches for Georgia and has another job.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an accident. I think that's
Right.
one of those situations on where Kirby said, "Hey man, get your agent on the phone and tell him to find you a job because you're either getting demoted or just quietly not going to work here anymore."
Yeah.
Because within hours, Georgia goes on to hire a guy named Larry Knight, who played at, I believe it was Central Michigan. Central Michigan has too many directional schools. Very
That's
difficult.
that great point. You really
Um,
do.
but he's from Georgia, played at one of the directional Michigan schools, and then last year he coached the Arkansas State Red Wolves as their outside linebackers and defense defensive run game coordinator. Would you like to know how many sacks Arkansas State had last season? I know you can see it in here.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
If you had not read
Yeah.
that, would you have guessed that number?
No, probably not.
Yeah, because Arkansas State had 39 sacks last year, ninth in the country in
So
sacks.
pretty much double of what Georgia had last year.
Right. It's not so. It's not that Arkansas State was that good because they were like sixth in the Sun Belt.
What are they doing in the Sun Belt? They just can't. They can't pass protect.
Like, yeah, I don't like it's. I think they Arkansas State finished season 7-6. It's not like they were just so much better than these other teams that they were able to get sacks. And we
Hmm.
know that that's the case, or that's not the case, because if you could just be so much better than somebody and just get nothing but sacks, why didn't Georgia destroy Marshall's quarterback
Right.
because Georgia was significantly better than Marshall last year,
Hmm.
or Austin P. Why didn't Georgia get 10 sacks against Marshall P? Uh,
Or Charlotte or, I don't know,
well, I mean,
anybody.
they did. I think they did have 3 or 4 against Charlotte, but that's
Oh, okay.
beside the point.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say
Um,
Larry Knight, he did go to Central Michigan, so you're right about the directional stuff.
all right, so yeah, no, I'm really excited about that addition,
Yeah.
and because I think there was a deficiency at outside linebackers coach last year and the year before. Um, I can't really say anything negative about the players. I can't say
Yeah.
that, oh, you know, Gabe Harris should have done this because if y'all listen to the show for a while, I am a huge Gabe Harris fan.
Hmm.
Huge. The whole foot race to violence quote that Bama fans got big mad at and then shut up as soon as that game started. That
Oh, he's
one.
right. He's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So like yeah, I can't say anything negative about the pass rushers. I'm really excited about what they can do coming back against or with a coach that focuses on punishing quarterbacks. That's a very exciting thing to think about because Gabe Harris, Zayden Walker, and then
Mhm.
even bringing some of the guys at defensive end like Josh Horton and Jordan
Justin Williams.
Hall
Yeah, and all of them.
Justin Williams, hopefully turning him into more of a Jalen Walker hybrid
Yeah.
linebacker type role. Like that would be so exciting for this defense.
I mean,
Um,
you really do have a galaxy of five stars, high 4 stars coming back this year. So I think we talked about it before how I don't think it's ever during Kirby's tenure. So we're going on year 11 now. He hasn't. They haven't been bad at one thing for consecutive years. Like they flip the narrative.
right,
So like the pass rush is going to be better this year. Like there's no way around it.
right. And then so moving on to linebackers. I have 2 bullets. Elite. Nothing else to say other than I wish there was more experience depth last year. But even the inexperienced guys were elite when they were needed last year. So
Yeah.
no notes.
Do you think that was probably the biggest strength of this team last year? Offense, defense, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I agree with that.
And I think it's probably been that way for a few years. Especially this came out during Combine Week, but they were talking about, oh yeah, C.J. Allen, um, yeah, like Glenn Schumann would just kind of tell him in the helmet the type of play that he wanted to run, and
Mhm.
C.J. would get everybody set for what he thought was best for what the offense was doing.
And CJ's going to look good in Honolulu blue and silver. I'm
Don't
telling you.
put that evil on him.
Just
Don't
anywhere
do
but
it.
Green Bay.
Look, Detroit needs to draft just defensive backs that already have titanium skeletons.
And ones that aren't going to like kidnap people and stuff like that. Because Terry Arnold's
Or
not.
just Chauncey Gardner Johnson. Like just avoid guys like him.
They really do need to. Yeah.
Um, but getting into defensive backs, that unintentional, very
A seg.
unintentional
What a
segue.
segue. What a segue.
Um, this group struggled all year. Individuals stood out at times. Ellis Robinson, I think, struggled significantly early in the year and got better towards the end, even though I know I've said this a number of times on the show. The play where he got a 15-yard penalty against Alabama, the both sides of the ball were still pushing. Not a whistle was blown yet. So when he dove onto it trying to get the ball from the guy, that should not have been a penalty because the play was still ongoing.
Was it
And
that one or the Tennessee one? That was a long touchdown. Or both.
no, so the one against Alabama was like it was a running play where Alabama was trying to move the pile and Georgia was trying to push the pile back, and then Ellis just comes over and like RKO out of nowhere dives on top of the pile, and he starts pulling
Oh
the
yeah.
ball, and then 15-yard penalty. It was the Tennessee one of where he jumped too early.
Okay.
His first SEC game. Uh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Georgia wins that
Crazy
game.
environment. All that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Um,
the initial Alabama game again. I don't remember much of it all.
that's
So
probably better
forgive
that
me
way.
if I
I
don't
I
remember.
still get mad.
it's hard for me to get mad because again, second half on, I don't have any recollection of that game at all.
Yeah. And I will say this is another group where I do think some issues between players and coaches cause guys to transfer out that should have been starters and very experienced starters this year. A guy in Julian Humphrey that I was still very high on, regardless of what happened in later in some of the games he played in 2024. But
Hmm.
as a whole, the defensive back production seems to go down a little bit every year since 2022.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's a very concerning trend for Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann. And I say that because in 2025, Georgia was 60th nationally in passing yards allowed per game.
Pretty mid.
Very mid.
Yeah,
They were 100th in nationally in passing yards allowed per game in conference games.
that's worse than mid.
Right. That's 36 from last. So
Yeah,
like one full Big Ten conference from last.
just bad. Yeah,
Yeah. And then they were 79th in games against ranked opponents. Somehow they were better in games against ranked opponents than they were against, like, I don't know, Mississippi State and Florida.
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
no,
But you don't even need to know the numbers to know that it's all unacceptable. You have one of the greatest defensive backs coaches of all time as your head coach. Is and it's there's no way that this should go on. And this I think defensive back performance is the exception to the Georgia's never batted anything back to back years
yeah, it has been a
because
couple. Yeah,
we weren't happy with it last year and somehow it got worse because at least in 2024 they were statistically good.
hmm,
The eye test they didn't pass it, but they
yeah,
they statistically were good in 2024. This year they
hmm,
were neither.
yeah,
Um, and I will say part of the problem is that personnel did not match the scheme. And it's something that y'all have heard me say time and time again over the last couple of seasons. But the more that I think about that one single sentence that I say all the time, the more infuriating it is. Because in a room of 4 and 5 stars, and coaches that both got raises this year, how are you not able to get the players to match the scheme you want or not change the scheme to match the players? This is two
right.
years
Either
in a
or.
row with these same two guys at coaching.
Hmm.
I, and I really do truly believe this when I say that I think 40-ish% of the issue with Georgia's entire team last year comes down to Dante Williams and Travaris Robinson. I think they're the problem. I
Yeah,
don't think that they are the coaches that can take the quality of player that Georgia has and either change the scheme to fit the player or coach the player to fit the scheme so Georgia can go on to win more national championships. I truly believe that Georgia will struggle to win more national championships and big games with these two guys still in charge.
yeah. No, I agree with that 100%.
And like, go back, go back to the Sugar Bowl last year. How many times did the defensive front stop the checkdowns? You had linebackers in coverage against fast tight ends and running backs. You had the defensive front chasing down Trinidad Chambliss. They may not have been able to get to him, but they were getting him to the sideline, right?
Yeah.
And one of the defensive backs was just like, "Oh, there's a football going over my head. Oh man, that's a touchdown! Dang it!"
Did I do that?
Yeah,
Shit.
yeah. That would be a good meme.
Yeah.
Georgia defensive backs last year watching the scoreboard change. Did I do
Did I,
that?
did I do that?
Uh,
Might be dating ourselves with that one though.
that's fine. That's fine. Oh yeah, I just look. I want people to hold me to this. I will not say that Georgia's going to win another national championship while both of those coaches still work for the team. It'll hurt me to
Yeah.
say that somebody else is going to do it when we do our 12 team, like when we do our playoff predictions.
Even though, like, we'll inevitably all put Georgia at number 1 or 2.
I'll probably put Georgia at 2, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll have obviously they're winning the SEC, and then just for posterity's sake, they're going to lose the Sugar Bowl to pull a name out of a hat.
Um, uh,
However, the bracket breaks down, it'll be like the 9-10 or the no, that doesn't necessarily even make sense. It doesn't matter. They're probably going to lose to Duke.
oh God, no. I hope not.
Nebraska gets good all of a sudden. Nah, never
Yeah, as
mind.
soon
Matt
as
Rule's our
I say,
coach.
as soon as Dylan Riley leaves, yeah, they figure it out.
Dan Lanning beats Kirby Smart in the Sugar Bowl. There we go.
Oh, that would hurt. Oh man.
It would, and it would be like, hey, coach, you remember when I coached your defense and this kind of thing didn't happen? Miss you too, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so if I had to break down what I think the percentage of each issue last year caused Georgia season to not end like it should, I'm gonna legitimately say 40% defensive backs coaches. Just if
Mhm.
I'm being entirely honest. Uh, I'm gonna go 15% outside linebacker coach. We're at
Okay. 65,
55.
55. Geez. Okay, don't ask me math. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna check you on it.
I'm gonna say 30% deficient offensive play calling when it needed to be creative.
Mhm.
Legitimately, I'm gonna put 30% of that season on Mike Bobo.
Yeah.
So that puts us at 85, and I'm gonna say the last 15% is just youth on both sides of the ball.
No, I mean
So
that's probably about right.
yeah, and I'm not happy about it. Like guys, I never want to make this episode ever again. I never want to go back and spend multiple hours across a couple of weeks talking about why Georgia sucked.
Mhm.
Like if they lose in a 42-41 overtime game in the national championship, like yeah, all right, man, they didn't suck. Football's a weird shape; it bounces the wrong direction sometimes. Good game,
Mhm.
but no, like the things that we specifically brought out statistically sucked. Like they were
Mhm.
statistically off. And then when you trace back down to, hey, this sucked. Why did it suck? Well, it's not the 4 and 5 star players, right? I'm
Mhm.
not going to say it's the head coach. I'm not even going to say it's the coordinator, or at least for the defensive side of the ball, because we broke it down. He didn't even call the plays a decent part of the year last year. Is that a choice that he would probably take back? Maybe, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if your defensive backs couldn't cover me running a go route. Like
Right, right.
if I could double move your DB out of his shoes, maybe he can't play the position that you're coaching him to play.
And that's the problem.
Right. That's 100% the problem. But I hope I never have to do this again. It was awful. I caused myself a lot of physical pain having to think about the Sugar Bowl and the Alabama game and all the other
But
close
again, this
games.
team, again, just to be a little bit more positive before we get out
I
of
was gonna say,
here.
please
It,
give me something positive to think about.
they did go 12-2. Obviously, the 2 part sucks, but back-to-back SEC champions. You have a lot of guys coming back. It, uh, Things are looking up. They
Okay.
really are. This is supposed to be a rebuilding season, 2025, and it was to a certain extent, but it was better than 24, which you probably should have done more in 24, but you didn't. 25 was better. And then I mean, just look at the combine stuff. I mean, what was it? Kobe Young and these guys are talking about Taylor Taylor and all the like the receiving room or pass catchers and whatnot. Like
Oh,
it's funny stuff.
I'm gonna be positive. I'm not gonna say what I wanted to say. I'm not gonna do it. and be positive and be nice. I've had enough negativity with having to write these episodes. But you know, I will say the last negative thing. It's real easy to look back when you're laying on your back, or look. It's real easy to look up when you're laying on your back. So, all right, y'all. That's gonna do it for this episode of Nothing Finer Podcast. You can always find us on social media at nothing.finerpod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You can find us there. Look us up on Connect Savannah's Best of Savannah. Vote for us until the clock runs out. Finish the drill, y'all. And always remember, there's nothing finer in the land.
And on Jumping Notches, vote until midnight on March 4th.